When you add a quiz to a Moodle page, you are going to first establish the quiz settings, and we're going to go over some of those. There's actually a lot of them, so we're going to skip through the ones that are less commonly used. But let's get started. So to add a quiz to a Moodle page, you are going to turn editing on, and when you do, you're going to choose the block in the center column where you're going to add it. So I'm just going to pick any old block, and I'm going to say add an activity or a resource. And then on your list of activities on the left, one of your options is a quiz. And as soon as you click the add button, you are on the page where you are going to set up the settings for the quiz. So there are the required fields. Actually, I think there's only one required field, which is a quiz name. So I am going to call this muscle actions. If you needed to give some specific directions, you could do that in the description field. You are not going to check this box because if you did, the directions for your quiz will end up on your Moodle homepage. Probably not something you want. I, generally speaking, will recommend that teachers do not have an open and close date for the quiz. Being of an advanced age, I would just myself forget when those dates are. So getting into the next year, I just wouldn't even remember that I had those settings in there. And if you enable them, they really make it so that the students can't get to the quiz except for the window that you have enabled it for. Some people will want to put a time limit in their quiz, so they can click the enable button here. And then you do need to use this pull-down menu to define what is going to happen after the time limit expires. So that is an option. One thing in the grade section that you want to be aware of is that you can allow multiple attempts for your quiz. So that would be from this pull-down menu. And this really, the grading method, if you do have multiple attempts, is really what grade is sent to the Moodle gradebook, and we don't actually use the Moodle gradebook, so this isn't an important field. But this one, attempts allowed, might be something you're interested in. Layout. Notice that in the settings, there often is a hyperlink to show more. So show more, show less. I just want you to be aware of that. Also, when you're on the settings page, there is often a question mark. If you click that, you're going to get a little bit of information about what that particular setting is about, and that can be helpful. Okay, in the layout, I usually advise that the quizzes are going to have about 5 questions per page. The big advantage of not having every single question on one page is if you break it up, when a student is taking a quiz, if they do 5 questions and then they have to go to another page, it saves, when you go to another page, it saves the answers that the student has posted in the previous page. So let's say you had a 20-point quiz and there's an internet issue after 17 questions. The first 15 questions on the first 3 pages, if you did every 5 questions per page, would actually be saved. So the student wouldn't have to start from the beginning if they had to log back into Moodle, let's say. So that is an important setting right there. If you're going to print your quiz, anytime you print the paper copy of it, you do want all the questions on one page. It prints best that way. Question behavior. A lot of people do like to shuffle within the questions, which is the same thing as saying shuffle the possible answers, like in a multiple choice question. And you do most likely want deferred feedback. That means that you don't want students to see anything that you have typed into the feedback fields until after the entire quiz is submitted. There's some complicated options here. Trust me, you're going to choose deferred feedback. If you want to study the other options, you have the question mark here, or you can ask me specific questions related to that. Review options. So review options are what will the student be able to see during these times, during the attempt, immediately after the attempt, and then the later while the quiz is still open and after the quiz is closed. Those only pertain to some quizzes where you have set a open and close date. So what do you want them to see? Do you want them to see like whether their marks were right or wrong? Do you want them to be able to see what they actually put down for their answer? Do you want them to know what the right answer is? The other things are feedback that you can type in when preparing the quiz. But these are all things that you want to consider before posting a quiz. Appearance. Yeah, there's not much there that I do. Extra restrictions. The biggest one in here is that sometimes people are going to want to require a password. So you could put a password that students would have to type in when they get to your class, and that would just be a way that they cannot get into the quiz before the actual class period. And sometimes after the students all start the test for test security, sometimes teachers go in and change the password to something else. So a student couldn't, for example, text out the quiz password to somebody else who's not currently in the class. The rest of the settings are less commonly used, so I'm not going to go over them in the video. But when you're done with your settings, you click Save and Return to Course. And then if you have to revisit the settings of any posted quiz, you can always click on the Edit button and choose Edit Settings. It will bring you right back.